Welcome back, folks, to another edition of my WrestleRant video series where I give my in-depth analysis of all the pay-per-views that I watch on the WWE Network. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about every installment of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, concluding with today, the 2013 review of the 2013 installment. So with that being said, on the kickoff show, we were initially supposed to get Big E contending for the Intercontinental Championship against Curtis Axel. However, Curtis Axel had to back out due to injury, some sort of injury that he suffered at the last minute. We've got Damian Sandow versus Kofi Kingston instead. Good matchup for what it was. Damian Sandow went over. Really nothing much of a notable matchup. Just fine for what it was. You won't be able to see that anyway if you watch this back in the WWE Network, but just an FYI. So kicking off the actual show was a triple threat tag team match with the WWE Tag Team titles. Now this was around the time that the tag team division really started to get kicking up again with all these great tag teams, all these great matches, and it all really started at Battleground only a few weeks prior to this show when Cody Rhodes and Goldust got their jobs back after defeating the Shield's own it was Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. So a great matchup on that show kind of set the standard for tag team wrestling. And on this show, it really did do the same. When the tag team titles were up for grabs, it was on an episode of Raw only 2 weeks prior to this that Cody Rhodes and Goldust unseated Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins as the new WWE Tag Team Champions. So in this matchup, the Usos were also involved. Rhodes and Goldust versus the Shield versus the Usos. It was an amazing matchup that really set the standard for the rest of the night, which was not able to be met by any of the subsequent matches. But Cody Rhodes and Goldust really lit the tag team division on fire in late 2013. And I don't want to say it started with this matchup, like I said before. It kind of really started with the Battleground match at between the Road Brothers and the Shield at that show. But this was kind of a continuation of that, and this was really no exception to the hot streak that the Rhodes Brothers were on at the time as WWE Tag Team Champions. So an excellent matchup to kick off the show. Cody Rhodes and Goldust. A lot of amazing maneuvers here. Despite it all, though, the coming up on top was still the WWE Tag Team titles intact. The Usos, a strong showing, would prove to be why they were a future set of WWE Tag Team Champions. Another great showing from the Shield as well. So up next, I believe in between this matchup and the next matchup, we had an in-ring segment with The Miz calling out the Wyatt family who had been kidnapped by them. I think they had written spare me or something weird on his chest or something on SmackDown only a few days prior to this. So The Miz calls up Bray Wyatt. He gets Luke Harper and Eric Rowan instead out to save The Miz, or I guess I should say that in quotation marks, isn't it? He didn't really save him, but Kane making his first WWE on TV appearance, a televised appearance since the SummerSlam pay-per-view. 2 months prior to this, he took some time off to film the See No Evil 2, of course, the sequel to See No Evil. Came back on the show to save The Miz, only to chokeslam him and turn heel in the process. Excuse me. The next night, that's when Kane would join the Authority and unmask, and that would kind of set the standard for corporate Kane over the next year, and it's hard to think that's been going on for the last year. Not consistently, because remember, Kane remasked at one point earlier this year, only to unmask again. It's all really confusing with Kane, but this is really where it all started when he returned, attacked The Miz, turned heel, and joined the Authority the next night on Raw. So a fine segment kind of to serve as to kind of kill down the crowd before the next filler matchup. I mean, this was also a match added at the last minute, because right before the show started, there weren't really many matches to fill out a full pay-per-view card, so they needed to add as many matches as they could. This was one of them. So this was a segment. So and this was also one of them too. Fandango and Summer Rae making her in-ring debut on the main roster, taking on Natalya and the Great Khali. Basically what you would expect from the people involved. I mean, Fandango going from defeating Chris Jericho at WrestleMania to this garbage to not even being on the show at all. I think as I tape this, the guy hasn't been on a televised show, Raw or SmackDown, since like July or August, which is pretty weird. But anyway, though, this was a fine filler matchup. I didn't really expect anything 5-star wrestling out of this, but it was okay for what it was. Fandango and Summer Rae pick up the victory. I believe it was Summer Rae that pinned Natalya. And any momentum that she got from this win was kind of ruined the next night when she would lose to Natalya in singles competition, kind of setting the stage for their feud over on Total Divas over the next year as well. So, like I said, fine filler matchup. Just skip through it if you watch this back in the WWE Network. Up next, another filler matchup. It was for the United States Championship. Like I said before, Big E, originally on the show, was supposed to contend for the Intercontinental Championship against Curtis Axel. However, only hours before the event, Axel had to pull out of the show due to injury. So we were given this matchup instead after Big E and Ambrose interacted with each other on the WWE pre-show on, not the WWE Network, I'm sorry, this is on YouTube at the time. I'm thinking this is at the time of the network, and it's not. But, yeah, that kind of set up this matchup. It was a good matchup, but people really did not care. Big E was fresh off of turning face, so people were just still kind of buying into him as a fan favorite. Dean Ambrose, I mean, it's funny now because he's like one of the most over guys in the company as one of the top baby faces with so many, Daniel Bryan out, Roman Reigns out. Dean Ambrose is the de facto number 2 babyface right now in WWE as I film this, right behind John Cena. And a year ago, he was United States champion. I mean, I liked him as United States champion, but as a lot of people complained, myself included, he never really defended the title all that much. He defended the title on this show, the next night on Raw, and Big E against Big E in a rematch from the show, because this match ended via countout, with Big E coming out victorious. And then he wouldn't defend the title, I think, for another 4 or 5 months until like February. So that was pretty ridiculous, but nevertheless, a good matchup, but like I said before, virtually no one cared about it because there was no build-up. Big E had just turned babyface, and Dean Ambrose wasn't really a fighting champion, so people really didn't have any reason to care about this matchup. I think Big E and or Dean Ambrose got cut up in this matchup. I mean, Big E was, when he bounces off the ropes and he like collides with his opponent like that, he got a cut above his eye, or maybe it was Dean Ambrose, I can't remember exactly, but there was that. That was the only real notable thing about this matchup, though. Up next, we had CM Punk taking on Ryback and Paul Heyman in a handicap Hell in a Cell match, and technically a rematch from the year prior at Hell in a Cell, when CM Punk, like I talked about in my 2012 review, when CM Punk defended his WWE Championship against the babyface Ryback inside Hell in a Cell. Now the roles were reversed, and Paul Heyman was aligned with Ryback this time, not CM Punk. But despite that, the ending result was still the same, with CM Punk coming out on top. Now, I don't know about anyone else, but I definitely preferred last year's matchup, the 2012 matchup between Punk and Ryback at Hell in a Cell, over this one. I didn't really like this one all that much. It felt like it was rushed. It felt like CM Punk was really getting too much offense over Ryback, and Ryback was really no threat over Ryback whatsoever. It was a match that I didn't really mind being inside Hell in a Cell. The whole Ryback involvement was a little bit weird. I was fine with it when it happened. Like, if you go back and listen to my 2013 review of Night of Champions up here on the channel, I praised Ryback joining Paul Heyman because I thought it was something cool. But, I mean, it really got watered down by this point. People just really wanted to see the feud to end. They really wanted to see CM Punk move on to bigger and better things, maybe get involved in the whole Authority storyline. And Paul Heyman, technically, this wasn't even a handicap matchup because he was on top of the cell the entire time. So it really was only Punk versus Ryback inside the cell. He put away Ryback with ease, defeating him in a street fight. Like, technically, I don't want to say burying him, but he defeated him with ease in 4 minutes in a street fight the next night on Raw. So that was pretty much it for Ryback if it wasn't already over for him already by this point. Which sucks to say because I still think that he has potential in WWE, but I digress. So a pretty forgettable Hell in a Cell match was, pretty much the pattern that we've seen at all the Hell in a Cell pay-per-views dating back to 2009. But anyway, after the matchup, CM Punk ascends the cell, gives Paul Heyman a beating of a lifetime with a Singapore cane, delivers a GTS to him, and that's pretty much it. So in between this matchup and the next matchup, I guess they had a video package or a backstage segment or something. I can't remember exactly. I watched this a while ago, about a month ago, and I'm only filming it now. But I know obviously they had to get Paul Heyman down from the cell, and he was attacked, he was hurt, so they needed to get the crane down for him or something like that. And he would be kept off TV for the next 2 or 3 months until Brock Lesnar would come back. So, that being said, a pretty forgettable Hell in a Cell match. Definitely not one of the better matches between CM Punk and Ryback. I mean, they've never really had the greatest of chemistry in the ring. But I definitely thought their series of matches in 2012 were a lot better than this one. Their TLC matchup, the TLC matchup, the Hell in a Cell matchup were miles better than this bout, in my opinion anyway. And the Battleground one, I thought that one sucked too. This one was slightly better than the Battleground bout, but not by much. So up next, we have Los Matadores taking on the Real Americans, Jack Swagger and Cesaro. So a good matchup for what it was. I mean, it really wasn't anything special. It only went about 5 minutes. It was added at the last minute. Or no, it wasn't. That was a Battleground match with the Real Americans, if I remember exactly. But I think they were kind of building towards this. I mean, this was a feud that you knew that you were going to get when Los Matadores came to the main roster about a month prior to this. I wasn't a fan of the gimmick when it was first announced. I wasn't a fan of the gimmick when it debuted on the main roster, and I'm still not a fan of it now. I think it's a complete waste of talent of Primo and Epico. I think they're capable of much, much more. But still, I thought this matchup was fine for what it was. The Los Matadores obviously go over. They were undefeated in tag team action for quite a long time. I don't think they suffered their first defeat until like December maybe. Maybe not December. Maybe it was January or February or something like that. It would be a while until they would finally suffer their first defeat as Los Matadores. But the gimmick was stupid. The people on the show really didn't care for it. The whole bullshit with El Torito and Goring, Zeb Coulter at ringside, was really dumb. I mean, it's not as bad as the comedy that we're getting nowadays with El Torito and Hornswoggle and the Bunny and all that fucking bullshit. But it was still pretty, eye-rolling, to say the least. So a fine matchup, really nothing special, obviously. But up next for the World Heavyweight Championship, John Cena making his return to contend for the World Heavyweight title against the then-champion Alberto Del Rio. So Del Rio, in my opinion, had built up a pretty solid reign as World Heavyweight Champion, had a number of good title defenses against Dolph Ziggler and Rob Van Dam going into the show, and then to have John Cena come back, and I thought it was way too soon. I thought they were going to pull a fast one on us and have John Cena not show up or have someone else come out instead, but they advertised it for a pay-per-view. It wasn't like it was an episode of Raw or anything. It's a pay-per-view. You kind of have to deliver, and they did that. John Cena came back. They had a very good matchup. John Cena and Del Rio, respectively, on their own, are not the most intriguing characters in WWE, but when you put them together in the same ring, they have a lot of good matches. That was the case in 2011, 2012, and it was also the case on this show at Hell in a Cell. They would have another good matchup at Survivor Series, but again, their whole feud was kind of a waste of time because you knew Cena was going to get the better of Del Rio. It was really obvious that he was going to come out on top. And this was around the time that people were thinking, okay, are they going to mend the World Heavyweight title and the WWE title? And they would eventually do that at TLC and not wait until WrestleMania. So, anyway, a good matchup between Cena and Del Rio, but the ending outcome was really, really predictable. Del Rio, I don't want to say this was his downfall, because like I said in my 2011 Night of Champions review, go back and check it out, cheap plug. I always thought that, ironically enough, his loss to John Cena at 2011 Night of Champions when he lost the WWE title was the beginning of the end for Alberto Del Rio, and then wouldn't you know, 2 years later, the two square off again at Hell in a Cell. Del Rio once again loses a world title to John Cena. And he really just was not the same after this. He'd become a job guy. He'd lose to Sin Cara after his feud with John Cena. After his feud with John Cena, was over, he would lose to Sin Cara a few times, become a jobber for WWE Superstars, and would later be fired over this past summer. So a good matchup, but the predictability of the matchup really kind of killed it for me. Up next for the Divas Championship, putting in the death slot right before the main event, of course, as always. I mean, I never really expect anything less from WWE. AJ Lee defending her Divas Championship against Brie Bella, who had just turned babyface. I had a very bad feeling that, Daniel Bryan also went for a WWE World title on the show too, so I had a bad feeling. I would have been happy if Daniel Bryan won his match, but there were rumors that they wanted to have Brie Bella and Daniel Bryan both come out on top and both walk out with world titles, or both walk out with championships, especially since this was only 1 month removed from when Daniel Bryan proposed to Brie Bella on, I think, Total Divas. It wouldn't air for a couple more months, but in reality, it happened in September of 2013. But anyway, though, I was fearful because they did this matchup at Battleground. AJ Lee won, so I'm thinking, okay, they're holding the rematch, so maybe Brie's going to win this one. Thankfully, it was not the case. It was a fine matchup. Brie Bella, improved. She has improved by leaps and bounds. Same thing with her sister Nikki in the ring in the last year or so. This was not the most exciting matchup, like I said before. It took place right before the main event, so people did not care about this matchup whatsoever, especially considering Brie Bella was involved. They just kind of turned her babyface out of nowhere. It wasn't really a moment. It was just kind of like, hey, their face now, start cheering for them, and really no one did at first because no one gave two shits about the Bellas, and you can argue to this day that no one still gives a shit about the Bellas. But my opinion, though, no offense to any Bella Twin fans, but just my opinion. So up next, we had the WWE Championship matchup. I know when AJ Lee retained, I forgot to say that. But anyway, to the WWE title main event. It was inside Hell in a Cell. Randy Orton facing Daniel Bryan for the abeyant WWE title. And I fucking hate that word, and I hate that we used it. But that's the word that WWE used when they just shoved it down our throats during this 6-week period when there was no champion on the show. Kind of like right now with Brock Lesnar. We have an official champion, but he's never on the show. But anyway, Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan facing off for the WWE title inside the Hell in a Cell, with Shawn Michaels voted by you, the WWE Universe, to be the special guest referee for this matchup. The whole point of this contest, because at Battleground, a couple of weeks earlier, Big Show had interfered in the main event and caused the matchup to go to a no contest. One of the most mind-blowing finishes to a main event in WWE history. Why the fuck they did that, I have still no idea to this day. But why they made it inside the Cell, it made sense. Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan had been feuding since SummerSlam. The Cell was supposed to keep any interference out from the Authority, the Shield, Big Show, whoever. And it was supposed to keep the unbiased Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee. So it made sense. I like the idea. I mean, the referee was also an issue with referee Scott Armstrong in Night of Champions when he gave the fast count to Daniel Bryan, which helped him win the WWE title. Not intentionally on Daniel Bryan's part, but it was an inside fix from the Authority, all that kind of bullshit. So anyway, it all made sense. I like the build to this matchup. They had a good matchup. It was 22 minutes long, and this was my big problem with the series of matches between Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton. Because it's weird, because I thought their best series of matches last year when they were both babyface. When they were having the great matches on Raw and SmackDown, and that awesome no-holds-barred match. And then when you turned Randy Orton heel, I thought they were going to be even better. But then the matches weren't really all that great. They were good, but they weren't as good as they possibly could have been. They didn't live up to their full potential, I guess I should say. They had a good match at Night of Champions, they had a good match at Battleground, and this show was kind of the same thing, better than the prior two bouts, but still not as excellent as a lot of people thought it would be. And I mean, it was going good, and I mean, the final few minutes were very, very well done, but then you get to the whole interference, all the fucking interference with Triple H, and it really ruined the whole aspect of Hell in a Cell, why you're supposed to have a Hell in a Cell matchup in the first place. And this is something that really bothered me with the final string of pay-per-views in 2013, was that there was so much fucking interference and dirty finishes to pay-per-views, to main event matches on pay-per-views. It was ridiculous. It's like basically telling the consumer, the viewer, that you're wasting your money on this matchup because you're seeing someone cheat to win, which is not always a bad thing. But inside this matchup, it kind of is. Hell in a Cell's designed to keep people out. Triple H got involved anyway. Daniel Bryan hit him with a big knee, which got to a big pop. And then Shawn Michaels, out of respect for his friend Triple H, would deliver a sweet chin music to Daniel Bryan, costing him the WWE title. Randy Orton would get the 1-2-3. New WWE champion, the Viper, Randy Orton. And it would set up the next night's angle with Shawn Michaels being, tapping out to Daniel Bryan in the Lavelle lock and the Yes lock. But, and that was only a short-lived thing, too. A lot of people thought, okay, maybe they'll face off at WrestleMania, which I never really thought was a possibility anyway. Shawn Michaels was done. I personally do not think that Shawn Michaels will ever make a comeback to the ring, nor should he. I mean, I'm a big Shawn Michaels fan. I love his work in the ring. But the guy came out, I mean, he retired in such a way at WrestleMania 26, in his awesome match with The Undertaker, that I thought there's really no way that he could possibly come back from this. Because, like, when he first retired at WrestleMania, I mean, it wasn't a great match against Stone Cold. It wasn't billed as his final match like the WrestleMania 26 match was. I mean, people knew that he was retiring, but they didn't know, I mean, for sure that he was done. Like Steve Austin in WrestleMania 19, like Stone Cold. But anyway, though, I digress. Like I said, a good main event, not great, and the interference really pissed me off because that defeated the whole purpose of the cell structure in the first place. And I really hope that Daniel Bryan would win back the title here and kind of put an end to all this bullshit Authority stuff. And it did not, so we would get it, going until WrestleMania. And that was kind of the saving grace of the show, was the thought that, okay, if they're not going to give Daniel Bryan the title here, hopefully they'll give it back to him in WrestleMania. And that kind of pissed me off even more when they didn't have him win the Royal Rumble. They gave it to Dave Bautista instead. I'm a big Bautista fan. As you can see, I'm wearing his t-shirt right now on sale in WWE Shop.com right now. Cheap plug. But that always pissed me off. The whole interference with the main event matches in 2013, this kind of continued that sad streak on this show. So that was really disappointing. But on the whole, though, this was a very lackluster show. Better than Battleground and Night of Champions easily, but again, that's not saying much. Survivor Series next month was a terrible show too. But this was easily the best show of those 4 pay-per-views in late 2013. TLC I thought was the better of these 5. But of these 4, Night of Champions, Battleground, Hell in a Cell, and Survivor Series, I mean, we had so many fucking pay-per-views within the matter of like 2 months. You have 4 pay-per-views in the course of 2 months. It was ridiculous. But there's really nothing from this show that I can request you to go back and watch, with the exception of the opening tag team title match. That was spectacular. But everything else, Fandango Summer Rae versus Kali and Natalya, skip that bullshit. Big E versus Dean Ambrose, yawn. Up next, Punk and Ryback. Again, nothing great. It was okay, but it was nothing great. Matadors versus Real Americans, John Cena versus Del Rio, very good matchup, but the predictability of it kind of hurt it for this viewer. And AJ Lee versus Brie Bella, mediocre. So, again, there's no reason to go back and watch this show. It was newsworthy in the sense that we got two new world champions crowned, But other than that, the action from this show was barely average, with the exception of the Cena Del Rio match and the opening tag team title match. But if there's one match from the show that I would suggest you to go back and watch, it would not be Cena Del Rio, because if you've seen any of their past battles from 2011, 2012, you've already kind of seen them a million times before. So yeah, I would suggest to you that you go back and watch this matchup from the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, the tag team title match. Great stuff from all three teams involved. So, with that being said, I thank you folks for watching this edition of WrestleRant. That's going to wrap it up for my review of all the installments of the WWE Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. I look forward to the WWE Hell in a Cell pay-per-view this year. Should be a good show, hopefully. I mean, the product is in the same state that it was last year, if not better. If not worse, I should say, but that's really up for debate. But, yeah, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll be talking about the Taboo Tuesday and Cyber Sunday events. And then I might transition into the Survivor Series pay-per-views. I mean, as of right now, I already have like the whole lineup set for the rest of 2014, and maybe going into 2013 or going into 2015 as well, with Royal Rumble reviews, Elimination Chamber reviews, WrestleMania reviews. I'm hopefully looking, like, as of right now, as of this filming, I've watched WrestleManias 1 through 8 on the WWE Network, and what I'm going to try to do is film reviews for those WrestleManias and all the other WrestleManias I'm going to be watching between now and then, because I want to try to watch every single WrestleMania that I haven't already and put a review up for it up here on the channel. And then even the WrestleManias that I already have seen, like 25, 26, 27, I'll probably still put a review for them up here on the channel if you want to watch a 27 review. Terrible show, but that goes without saying. But, yeah, like I said before, hopefully in the next couple of weeks for the remainder of the October month, I'll be reviewing the Taboo Tuesday events from 04 and 05, and then I'll also be talking about the Cyber Sunday events from 2006, 2007, and 2008. So with that being said, folks, always appreciate you guys checking out the videos. If you want to support the show, make sure to find me on Twitter at WrestleRant. Make sure to subscribe as well. I'm Graham Jason Matthews, and I'll catch you guys in a couple more days with my review of the 2014 installment of WWE Taboo Tuesday.